Hello everyone, welcome to the Power BI course. Today we are going to learn mQuery language. Now this is an introductory lecture on it. I had one viewer who wanted to know that is mQuery expertise are required for Power BI or not. So, and I have seen many people in person as well that they are kind of scared about mQuery language coding. So I wanted to make a tutorial on it. This is, however, very introductory because mQuery is a lengthy language and you need a lot more time for it. So we are going to start with introductory lecture, and then in future I will have some advanced level lecture as well. So let's get started. So let's learn some facts about the mQuery. So first is it is a case sensitive language. So you need to be aware when you are writing a code. Then the second fact is it has more than 700 functions. And I have never seen a person who knows each function up to now, including me. So you learn by experiencing it, practicing it. So do not worry about it that you know nothing about it. There is all material available and you can learn over time. The third thing is same as other programming language. The mQuery also has its own structure, and that structure is here as you can see in a blue. It starts with let word, let, and then it ends with in statement where you call out the variable you used it in the let statement as the output. Now between the let and in you have each line mostly declared variables on the left hand side of the is equal to, and on the right hand side you have a expression. So in other words, that is the action you want, and you carry out that action using m functions and the objects in the Power Query like table, row, column. So I believe that you have a good hold and understanding about Power Query. So now let me show you the next slide where I have some details here. So we learned about the structure and I'm going to explain the little code here. So since you do anything in Power Query, up to you close the Power Query, everything is going to record using M language. This is the code about only I got my table in Power Query. So we are going to learn this, that how it records it. Now here in this box we have some facts about it. So each line has a and at the end it has a comma. So you can see here the comma here, comma here. At the last line just before the in function, you don't use the comma. So that is one fact. Then you can return any variable here after in statements. So remember, this is our output. So usually almost 99.9% of time, you will see that this last variable it called out in a output. Why? Because you have maybe 10, 15, 20 statements here and each statement has their own action. So the code works the way like as you can see here, my first variable, by the way the variables are in red text, the yellow background are the functions, and the pink background, which is let and in, they are part of statement. So as you can see here, my variable, so this variable Power BI given a name, you can use anything of your choice when you write the code. So this variable called out here in a second statement. Then this variable called out in a third statement. And why is that? That is why because you make a change here, now that change stored in this variable. So obviously you don't want to discard that, so your table is now transformed and that information stored here. That's why now you want to call a table, then you call this previous line variable. So the table or any object, it comes with the change. Okay, so that is the fact. Then the third is the list declared in curly braces. So wherever you see curly braces, that is the list. It use it for the anything declaration. The each that I already mentioned, that each line considered the previous change and so call out previous variable. What I mean by that is I can call out anything here out of these three variable, any variable. If I call out source, then it will only consider that action. It will ignore these two because source does not know about this action. So if I put it after in source, then I will get only that modification to the table or to the query. If I call out this variable, then I will get the action up to here. The third change will be ignored. And that's why, and in all M queries, you will see that it called out here after in statement the last variable. So understanding this, let's open Power Query. And here we are in Power Query. Now our agenda is to understand how Power Query records code in using M language, and then we are going to create our code as well. So let's get first table so we can understand how it works. And in my Excel workbook, I have two worksheets and one table. So I'm going to call out that table, and this is very small table. And I'm going to click OK. So here is our table, and now I'm from the home ribbon. There is an advanced editor here. So I'm going to open up that. But before that, here is our query and query name. This is our table like query, and this is applied steps. We have 3 steps here. Which Power Query automatically carried out the actions, and those actions are here in these 3 steps. So if I click on this source, I can see here in my formula bar this code, and that is only related to the source variable. Remember we saw in the slide? So that if I click here on the second step, then this code is only related to that second variable. If I click on this third one, then only the code is related to that third action or third variable. So that is about the formula bar. Now I'm going to open up Advanced Editor where you can see everything together. So my first source step code, then my second step code, and then my third step code. And then after in statement, it called out the third variable again. So in the first line or any line on left hand side of the E is equal to, you have your own variable. So basically what it does that it stores every action line by line in each variable. And those variables you can see in applied steps, step by step. And you call out the last change so you can see everything together. That is the way mQuery works. And when you call out the previous change, then it will ignore the other changes. It will only get you that up to that variable change. And when you remove something from here, it also going to remove that change. The import source matches no object. Did you miss a module reference? Let me see. Yes, here source. So yeah, it's case sensitive. We shouldn't forget it. So that is that. Now because it declared here as source with the capital S, so it confused. Anyway, So what we are going to do here, that currently we have this table, as you can see. Now I'm going to comment other statements, or I'm going to, by the way, commenting in a mQuery is forward // so that is not part of the code anymore. Now I'm going to comment this because I don't want that, and I wanted to call out my first variable source. So what we are expecting here, the change only up to here. And what is that? So source is now has a function in its action. It has a function excel.workbook, and then after the function, it's same as the DEX. The function parameter always goes in a round bracket. So there is a round bracket. Then it use another function, file.contents, and file.contents looks for a path. So it given a path where my file is. Let me expand it so you can see the full line. By the way, you can you have some options here, the display option, display code option, and I put it my display code option on display line numbers, and that's why I can see the numbers. Also by default you have this enable word wrap selected, which I deselected because I wanted to show my each line code in a one line. That's why. So anyway, come back to the code here. So in this source variable, it used Excel workbook function, and then within that it used file content function. Now file.contents looking for a path, so it given a path there, and then part of this Excel workbook it put it null and true there, and then end that line. So what we are expecting here by calling out a source in function, that it called out that workbook. Now let's look. I don't have no syntax error have been detected. So, and as you can see here, I have my table, I have my Excel workbook actually, and in my Excel workbook, as I shown before, I have two worksheets, salesperson performance and sheet 1, and I have one table which is again in the sheet 1, but I mentioned it as a table, so that is table. So that shows that as a table. So one table, two worksheet, and then there is an extension. So in first line of code, we got that. Now let's go back to the advanced editor, and I'm going to remove this. Now we wanted to see what happened in a next variable. So let's copy and paste it here. Again, we do not have any error because we can call out any variable as output. Now in next line, what happens that it calls out a source. So with this change, as I mentioned, that it always going to refer a previous line variable. So source meaning this change, and then in curly braces, so as a list. Then in a square bracket, you have a record. So the source has a record. Item is equal to summarize table. So there we saw that there were 4 entries and one of them was summarize table. So it's saying that item is equal to summarize table and the kind is table. Curly square bracket and curly bracket close, and then a data, meaning this is a table and it has a data. So what we are expecting out of this line of code, that we should have a summarized table with its data. Okay, now let's click on done, and as expected we have summarized table here, and it also has our data, 6 rows and 4 columns. But what I can see here, that the column data types, it's not assigned. Now let's go back to the editor and we are going to remove this, and now we are going to call our third line of code or third variable by putting our change type variable. So this is our variable, and the action is now table.transform column types. So that is the function it used. So function meaning in round bracket, it reference our previous action. So it's saying that summarize table, which is our previous variable. And then in a curly braces, so list, and within that each column name as a list as well. So list and then list. My product is my column name in double quote, comma, type text. Now in mQuery code, wherever you see type, meaning it's calling a data type. And that is used as a keyword, and that's why it shows in blue. So type and text, meaning the product column, I'm assigning a data type text. Curly bracket close for that column, comma, second column. My second column is color, again type a text. Then my third column is a quantity and it is integer. And it mentioned differently. Here it mentioned type and text. Here it mentioned int64.type. So that's the way 64-bit integer, as you can see in the message up, that it assigned that way. My fourth column as well, it's amount and it's assigned integer data type. Okay. And now we are calling our last change in our output. So we will have this change and this change together. So let's go and done. And as expected, now we have our perfect data type. So that is how mQuery records it. If you are familiar, then it is pretty much similar as a Excel macro recording. Now we are going to open up our blank query from the new source on the home ribbon, and I'm going to open up blank query so we can write our code as well. So up to now you had an idea that how it works. We know a couple of rules, and now we are going to write our own code. So for our own code, I just wanted to make our own table. So here in the formula bar there is nothing for the blank query. But when I click on this advanced editor, we have a frame for let and in structure with the first variable as it usually it does, a source variable called, and in output as well a source. So I'm gonna to put it some code here. So let's see, and table. So hash table is our function. So function, that means the round bracket. And I'm just going to put it my to list here, which is blank. So to list, and that's it. And already after in statement, it's already put it my source as output. So just that. So what we are expecting here, there should be a table with no entries, because we called out two braces here, so there is a to record, but there is empty. They are empty. Okay, so let's done it. And as expected, we have now table which doesn't have anything in it. So that's the way you start in very like baby steps, that how to write this code. Now let's put it some record here. So I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to enter here. So I wanted to put it my headers first, and my headers, let me put it in again a list. So my headers are like order ID. My order ID should be in a double quote actually. So double quote my order ID. When you put it something in a double quote, then it turns to red. Then I will have my customer ID, then I will have my item, and then I will have a price. So what I'm trying to create a table here which has these 4 columns and which will have some record as well. So we are going to put it to records. Let's put it here. So after each line you have a comma. So comma, that is our one rule, remember. And then these two lists of the record also must not go each individual record. If you remember from the previous code we saw, it also in another curly braces. Okay, so list in a list we are doing. And now we have to give value to this all 4 columns. So I am going to put it my order ID is 1. Then my customer ID also is 1. Then item is apple. And the price is maybe $1. So that is my first record. I'm going to enter, and my second record then, the order ID is 2. Again I have one first customer. Then my item is water bottle, and then the price is maybe, let's say, $2. So that is our table we created, table using a table function. And then we have our all column headers, and according to the column headers, we have values in our 2 records. Now let's click on done, and we have our table now. Again, similarly as the previous code, we do not have a right data types. So we are going to work on that now. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to open up editor again, and this time we need to give a data type here. So remember that I told you that we use a type wherever it use type, meaning data type. So type table, that is our data type to the table, and it cannot be a list now because you are declaring as a column headers with the data type. Then you can put it in a square bracket, and so we are going to remove this double quote as well, and I'm going to give is equal to in this example. So I'm going to put it as a number. Okay, just number. Then our second column, again we are not going to give any double quote, and we are just going to put it equal to, and again a number. Then the third one, fourth item, we are going to give it as a text. Okay, and then for the fourth one, we are going to give it as number. So let's see now what happens. We are going to close it with a square bracket, and we are going to remove curly braces. So now we do not have any errors, and we are going to click done. And now we have our data types. So with the 2 records. Now let's say you wanted to change these items you have in small letters. If you wanted to change it to the first letter with the capital letter, then you are going to make a change there, and for that you are going to put it again advanced editor. And by the way, before that, if you call out here like in a curly braces, because this table has 2 records and it starts with 0. So 0 record is our first record. So source, if you give a 0 here, meaning it is gonna to show only the first record, which is apple. So let's do that first. So that's what it did. Customer ID, order ID, item, and price. So this is our first record. Let's go back to the advanced editor. And now we have to, I'm going to remove this because we want all records. Now we have to give another variable. We have to declare another variable because we want another action. We wanted to change our item column. So it will be the column function, and then we are going to make a first letter capital. So my variable is, let's say, whatever the name, you can use whatever the name. So cap text, cap item. So I can put it cap item is equal to, and because it shows in red, because I have to put it comma here because that is my previous line. So cap item is equal to, then we are going to use a function table dot. So as soon as you do a table dot here, the table functions appear, and I'm going to use a transform. transform columns. Okay, so these functions, table dot transform columns, and since this is function, I have to give a round bracket. In a bracket, it is looking for a table, as you can see here. So our table is our variable source, because our last action is recorded there. So our updated table is now source. Then I'm going to put it comma. So now it's looking for a transform operation. So what we wanted to do, so that we need to put it in a curly braces. So that, and what we wanted to do, so our column name is item, and then comma, and it says here, you can see here the transform operations as a list. So that is our list. Now item, comma, and what we wanted to do, the text dot proper. So that is also a text function. The text dot proper function, we already know from Excel as well, that it put it in a proper form. The text in a proper form, meaning the first letter is capital and remaining letters are small letters. So that we did. And now we wanted to get here our cap item variable. Now we do not have any error, and so I'm going to click on done, and let's see what happens. So there you go. We have now first letter capital. So guys, this is all about mQuery language in this video. Please share your experience as well here in a comment, that how much M language you use. Thank you for watching, and if you like the content of the video guys, then please comment, like, share and subscribe my channel, and see you in the next video.